Welcome on into the Utah Blockcast. I'm Steve Bartle, Utah Insider for KSL Sports. It's good to be with you on a Thursday. Had to record. I know I've been absent, and I apologize. That's on me. That's my bad. My bad. Had a lot going on here, and so appreciate everybody for sticking with it. It's Thursday, which means not only are you going to be getting this episode, but we're also going to be doing our live stream later tonight to preview the Utah-Baylor matchup, go real in-depth. Me and Josh Bennett will be back at it later tonight. So you get a little double dosage of the Utah Blockcast, which, that's never a bad thing. So on this episode, this will be a brief one, just to kind of wet the palate a little bit. But on this one, I wanted to talk about a few different things. So Utah's leadership has been the topic of the week. And I think it's important to keep that perspective of, last season and where Utah is at now and what it could mean, for the future. So Utah's leadership, I think, has been really, really important to their success and has also done a lot to improve the outlook for Utah moving forward. So want to talk about that. Also, I think it's important to hit on Utah basketball. Both men's and women's welcomed their 2026 recruiting classes by signing their commitments yesterday, and those three were announced by both Utah men's and women's basketball. So 6 in total, 3 apiece in terms of signings yesterday. And I think just kind of running through the 6 signees will go a long way for this crowd. So wanted to hit on that. But I think first, it's important to start here. Utah's college football playoff ranking, number 13. Did it just receive a little potential boost? Baylor AD Mack Rhoades has stepped down from his role with Baylor, which has also put his position with the College Football Playoff Committee as chairman, in jeopardy. And so earlier today, it was revealed that the Big 12 is recommending Mark Harlan to fill that spot for Mack Rhoades as the committee chair. And I think that's pretty significant for Utah to replace Rhoades. Now, Harlan isn't going to replace Rhoades as the chair on the committee. He is just going to fill the vacated spot. It does sound like Arkansas AD is going to actually step up in that role, and that's Hunter Yurachek. So, it is good to see that. It's significant to see Harlan as the recommended choice. He is one of only 2 Big 12 athletic directors with experience on the playoff committee, which obviously helps as well. And I think having that experience from 2023 is why Harlan was elected as the guy for the Big 12 to replace Rhoades. Just kind of given the timing of where we're at with everything, we're already into going into the third week of the college football playoff ranking. And given the fact that we're roughly a month away from when those hard decisions need to be made, having somebody with familiarity on that committee representing the Big 12 is what led to this decision for Harlan being the guy. Now, is it going to benefit Utah? I don't know. But it certainly doesn't hurt Utah, I think. And I think, Harlan is the type of athletic director that will want to do right, own up to his mistake. He's owned what happened last year, the comments that he made, and I think he is going to put his best foot forward for the conference and for the Big 12. So, I don't think it's any added benefit to Utah in the ranking. I don't think they're going to suddenly see a boost in anything, but yeah, I think it's a good thing for Utah to have that sort of representation on the playoff committee, regardless of what it actually means for Utah. So switching gears, a little Utah basketball, both men and women's, were able to welcome their 2026 recruiting classes officially to the programs. And both Utah men's and women's signed 3 players apiece in the 2026 class. And I think just a quick run through for both programs, starting with Utah, welcoming Styles Clemens to the program. Again, a 6'2" guard, athletic, a 43-inch max vert, which I think, again, if you go through Instagram and you go through YouTube, there's plenty of commentary on Styles Clemens being the having the highest max vert in NBA Combine history. If he were in the Combine, maybe not history, but Styles Clemens is a tremendous athlete. 43-inch max vert, a 6'2" guard that's competitive, well built, and I think just sort of coming into his own offensively. He is clearly more athletic than the competition more often than not when you watch his film, when you watch tape. And I think he is the type of point guard that'll do well here under Alex Jensen and this staff, and the sort of the vision that they're trying to achieve with the athletes that they're bringing in. I think Styles Clemens is was a great addition. Adding him from the Overtime Elite League and welcoming him to the program, I think, was pretty significant. The other big addition for Utah basketball, Zati Lubaki, and I talked about him on the episode earlier this week after he committed, but now signing him again just to kind of reiterate some of the qualities and traits that make him so intriguing. A junior college all-academic All-American, the junior college national tournament MVP after leading Trinity Valley to the championship last year. Just did a lot to lead his team to the championship last year. He's 6'9", has a 35-inch vertical, a 7'2" wingspan. He is a player that I think Utah is really fired up about. He's going to do a lot to add some versatility to Utah's front court. He'll be able to play the 4, play the 3. He can play 5 as well. He can defend multiple positions. He is the type of athlete that I think really embodies the vision that Jensen wants with this squad, is versatile athletes capable of defending multiple positions, capable of scoring inside and out. He converted over 31% of his three-pointers last year, athletic enough to get to the rim. He's got a post-up game. There's a lot to like about Zati. So that was a big one for Utah. Adding those two, I think, is significant. They also welcomed Simeon Siguturaga. He is a 6'4", 200-pound athlete. He is part of the Utah Prospects program. You can kind of view this as, what a PWO would be for Utah, essentially. But this is a guy that I think has some potential. He earned offers from, some lower level programs, Utah Tech, Weber State. And I think adding him to, to the end of the bench where he can be sort of a developmental guy, I think give him a couple years in the program potentially. And this is a guy that I think could turn into, a contributor for Utah at this level. Again, 6'4", 200 pounds or thereabouts, good athlete, capable of defending multiple positions, tough, physical, athletic. I think this is an intriguing signing. And again, I think just kind of given where he'll be on the roster next year, as sort of that 13, 14, 15 type guy, I think this is the type of guy that is worth bringing in for sure because he has some developmental qualities that I think Utah really likes. So the Utah women's basketball program welcomed in a tremendous signing class, starting with Peyton Jones. She's a 6-foot guard / forward. She's got a lot of skill, a lot of ability, good size. Again, adding her to the mix here. Jones is currently the top ranked player in Utah's class. She's the number 56 player in the 2026 class, the number 11 shooting guard. Just a lot of skill for Peyton Jones. She'll be a nice addition to the backcourt. Utah also signed Riley Little, a 6'5" center from Kanab. Again, another 4-star prospect. She is the number 74 player in the country, number 11 center in the country as well. Just has the sort of tools that and size that you love in Utah women or in women's basketball. So a big addition there. And then the last one, Malika Satwala, finishing out the class. Great athlete, 5'10". She's going to be able to do a lot, defend a lot of positions. And again, it's just another addition, a great addition for Gavin Peterson. So really impressive signing class for Utah. This is now back-to-back years for Gavin Peterson with really impressive signees for Utah basketball. And Alex Jensen, again, adding a nice piece in Styles Clemens, adding a potential diamond in the rough in Zati Lubaki. That's going to be what that's sort of the process that Alex Jensen and Wes Wilcox, they're going to have to build this thing out. I think getting into the transfer portal after this season will be pretty significant for Utah to continue building out this roster. But really like those two because of what they do in adding to the athleticism, in the backcourt and in the front court. I think Utah added two really good pieces there to the roster. All right, let's switch gears back to football. And, I think the topic of conversation this week has been around Utah's leadership and what it's meant to the program this season. And, here we are, November 13th. Utah is 7-2 on the season, ranked number 13 in the college football playoff ranking. Utah has earned something that I think not a lot of people thought possible a year ago. If you think back 12 months ago, the Utes were, limping to the finish line of a 5-7 season, which included a stretch of 7 straight losses, which again was the first 7-game losing streak. And I think in roughly 40 yeed, if I remember right. I tried to forget that because, obviously you all tried to forget it as well. But I think it's really impressive what Utah has done this year, 7-2, taking care of business in the manner that they have. Obviously, the tough 2 losses have been difficult, dropping, both games to Texas Tech and BYU. That's tough. But I think to be here with the perspective of last season, it only adds to how impressive what this season has meant to Utah. You go back to last year, and I've had a couple conversations now this week with people that I interact with a lot. There just wasn't a lot of moments, a lot of things to feel excited about for Utah football. Right? It was a joyless season in a lot of different ways, and I think Utah, Kyle Whittingham needed to figure out how to right the ship and to get back on track and to kind of rebuild their outlook and their trajectory for the future. And again, here we are, November 13th, 7-2, ranked number 13th. I think Utah has accomplished that. Obviously, the story is still to be written. There's a lot of football left to be played, and a lot can change between now and the end of the month. But I think with the way that Utah football is playing at this point of the season, with the health that they have on their side, which again, going back to last year was the biggest issue for Utah's struggles, having that health, having the improved vibes around the program, I think has done a lot, not only for what it means this season, but more so for the future and for the outlook of the program in the immediate future, in the next couple of years. I think that was, not only in doubt, but was turning towards, a pretty negative view amongst the fan base. And I think there was a lot of concern, a lot of worry. And I think with what we've seen so far this season, a lot has been done to repair the damage that was done last season. And I think that'll go a long way for Utah as we start to talk and look ahead to what's coming this offseason. Again, I think it's important to remember, when the season ends, it's not going to suddenly be transfer portal talk. The transfer portal window has moved from December to January. And so that's going to be an interesting element. I think that's going to allow programs to sort of have those conversations, allow emotions to cool down. I think Utah, coming off of last season in the manner that they did, the struggles that they went through, I think there were, though there was a lot of talk about the culture being strong and the buy-in being strong, it's never fun to struggle as much as Utah did last year. And I think there were probably some emotions, some frustrations for players that elected to leave the program or even explore their opportunities elsewhere. And I think having the sort of success this year that they have, reinstilling sort of the the culture, the values, the brand of football that works well here at Utah, I think is going to benefit them as we get into the transfer portal conversation and get into more of those conversations and into those situations where we're talking about what Utah could potentially accomplish, in their offseason portal recruiting, and also hanging on to players. I think is also going to be a thing that we see. I don't think we have to worry about players jumping ship, given what they've done and sort of the changes that have taken place in college football. I think things are trending positively for Utah on the field with their 7-2 record. With the changes, I think there's a lot of intrigue around how that's actually going to benefit programs hanging on to players, not only in terms of moving the transfer portal window from December immediately after the season's end to now getting it into January. There's a lot of just logistical things there that I think lead coaching staffs to believe that it's going to be a less active transfer portal cycle this year, because January is typically, you're starting spring semester, you're enrolled, and again, coming off of the season, having a month to decompress and work through some of your emotions, work through some of your thoughts as players. I think it's going to allow that to sort of cool down and calm down a little bit more. And then two, this is going to be the first year with rev share being the primary focal point. Again, that was approved this summer. And, do we start to see some of the wild west type of nature of the transfer portal like we've seen the last couple of years? Do we start to see it, wrangled in? Do we see it roped in? Do we see some of these guardrails start to take hold? And do we see programs abide by some of the rev share requirements? There being a cap on the amount of money. Obviously, with NIL, there's going to be that sort of that's always going to be a thing now. And I think we'll learn a lot about what the transfer portal is going to be over the next few weeks and, getting into December as well. But I do think Utah is in a much better place as a program with where they're at, what they've done this season, that it's going to benefit them moving forward into that next phase of the calendar year. So I think that's been huge for Utah. It's a credit to the players. The players have done a lot to take accountability for what happened last year. I was going through some quotes, going through some articles, and came across a quote from Spencer Fano, who basically said, that 5-7 season, that's not Utah football. That's not the standard that's been established here, and we own that. And he said that was their whole goal, was to prove that that's not common here. And I think they've clearly shown that they took accountability for what happened last year, worked hard to make the improvements that they needed to, as players, and that's translated on the field. The team, Kyle Whittingham, made the changes that he needed to with his coaching staff, brought in an offensive coordinator that I think just fits so well with what Utah wants to be and needs to be. I think Beck, with his run game and just how it fits with the personnel that Utah has in place, I think he, hindsight being 2020, we all remember the conversations that were being had going back to last December about who Utah was involved with. Ben Arbuckle, Mac Leftwich, and I think landing on Jason Beck, I think he was the best possible hire for Utah to make, just because his offense fits so well, again, with the strengths of this year's team, but also just sort of the brand and culture that Kyle Whittingham wants his program to have, to embody. And I think that's been a really good marriage for Utah. And again, getting into the player leadership, Devin Dampier, with what he was able to do all offseason. You go back and you're reading through articles during spring ball, and a lot of the talk was about Devin Dampier taking his offensive linemen out for food, pretty regularly, 2-3 times a month. And Jaron Kump talking about how much he appreciated that it just makes you want to give him that little bit more effort and desire to protect him. And I think just all of those little types of things add up over the course of time, where it really builds up, re-strengthens, reinvigorates, reinforces your culture, your family atmosphere that you worked so long to build and establish at Utah under Kyle Whittingham. I think those little moments over the course of the year really helped to reinforce it this season. So, you're seeing it in comments from players. Donovan Saunders credited the atmosphere, the culture at Utah as helping him through, the difficulty of the beginning of the year for him. He was dealing with a nagging injury through non-conference play. And, he said he gave credit to the culture at Utah as what allowed him to get through that and to, now have the opportunities to make plays against Cincinnati. Donovan Saunders gave credit to the brotherhood and the family atmosphere at Utah, which you kind of take for granted sometimes because you hear it so often. But I do think there's a lot of legitimacy to it being genuine, a little bit more genuine this year, because there are just so many examples of that brotherhood over, when you look back over the course of a year, just seeing that, the stories from Devin, the stories from some of the offensive line and all of that. I just think it's all come together. And now we're at the point of the season where down to the final 3 games. And again, the story is still to be written on how Utah finishes this, but coming off of the bye week, feeling, you feel optimistic about what Utah's chances are to run the table in these next 3 games. And I think, again, it just says a lot about the players taking ownership of everything, of putting in the time, putting in the effort to help Utah rebuild their brand. And I think it's just going to benefit Utah, not only this season, but for the future as well. So those are my thoughts on this episode. I'm going to wrap it up, keep it quick here. And again, we'll be back at it tonight with a live stream previewing the Utah-Baylor matchup. We'll get into the X's and O's. We'll get into the matchups, things that we like, things that we're concerned about. We'll be going live 8 p.m. tonight. YouTube, Twitter, we'll have the streams out. We'll share the links there as well. So really looking forward to that. Looking forward to interacting with everybody in the chat. Come prepared with some questions, with some thoughts, with some takes. Excited to see everybody tonight in the live stream, hear from everybody as well. So we'll be at it later tonight, and I'll press end record on this one.